All right, this is the second part of our Monday series, a continuation of the liver discussion. This is, remember, one of the accessory organs for digestion associated with the small intestine. Pancreas we just talked about. Now we're talking about liver, and we'll also talk about the gallbladder soon. Structurally, it's divided into 4 lobes, 2 major and 2 minor. You have the right and left. As you can see, the right is much larger than the left. There's the left right here. And we have 2 minors, and you can see them on the lower graphic here. And those are called the quadrate and caudate. And you can also see from this lower graphic the ingress and egress of a number of vessels and ducts. They're right here. And in other organs we call that the hilum, but they give this a special name with the liver, and it is the porta hepatis. Now the liver is closely associated with the gallbladder. Right there. Okay, that's a gallbladder. Okay, next. Let's talk about the microscopic anatomy of the liver. This is the functional unit. This graphic here, lower right, is the functional unit of the liver, and it's called a hepatic lobule. This hexagon is composed of liver cells or hepatocytes arranged around a central vein. Here's the central vein. And there are columns of cells, hepatocytes, that are separated by spaces filled with liquid, and they call them sinusoids. There's also, you can see right here on the corners, some vessels, and they call them the hepatic triads. We'll talk about that right now. This is a little closer look at the hepatic triad. Bile is formed and the hepatocytes drains through the biliary caniculi. So here are the hepatocytes, and the caniculi is these little channels that go into the bile ducts, and they will flow in this direction. And remember, the bile is the main, or is the only contribution to digestion that the liver uses, unless you want to consider detoxifying after the digestive process is completed and all the nutrients come from the small intestine to the large intestine via the hepatic portal system. Okay, so let's see, at the borders you have the hepatic triad. I was telling you about that. This is the hepatic triad right here, and you have a branch of the hepatic artery, and that brings oxygen into the system. It goes down the central vein. Then you have a branch of the hepatic portal vein, and that is right here, and that also goes towards the central vein. And then lastly, you have the hepatic duct, the bile duct, which we already talked about initially. Okay. Next. Oh, and these are the Kupffer cells are actually macrophages that reside in the hepatic lobules. They were given that name before they realized that they were just modified macrophages. Okay, this is how it's all put together in a liver. You have the hepatic lobules, these hexagons are all put together neatly, and you'll see that they actually share several hepatic lobules will share the same triad, the same branch of the hepatic artery, the hepatic portal vein, and the bile duct, or at least the branch of the bile duct. Okay, now the gallbladder. Gallbladder is located This is looking at the liver from the bottom. Inferiorly, you can see the right lobe. The left lobe is smaller. You can also see the quadrate lobe. That's the one that's quadrate is the one that looks like more like a quadrangle. And then the last lobe that we had to know is the caudate. And caudate, since it's posteriorly, that implies the tail. Okay. Now we have the gallbladder on the inferior surface. It has a number of functions. One is it stores bile, it concentrates bile, and it releases bile. Okay, so it's a staging area. It will fill up with bile, and then when needed, through hormonal and nervous stimulation, it'll secrete its contents into the duodenum of the small intestine and help with digestion in that area. There's a duct system. Okay, this is the cystic duct right here. That's what the duct coming from the gallbladder is called. There's also, just give you a heads up, there are also some ducts that contain bile that come from the liver itself. They're called hepatic ducts. There's a couple of them, and they coalesce into one hepatic duct. Now the cystic duct and the hepatic duct come together, and they form the common bile duct. Okay? And at that point, it will merge just before entering the small intestine with the pancreatic duct. Okay, we'll talk about that on our last PowerPoint of the morning, and we'll get to that next.